Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks. And about half a year ago in update 1.22, Wargaming finally buffed the T69, a vehicle that had been in a real sorry state for pretty much since it was first introduced into the game. And now, I'm going to let you know why exactly the T69, it finally doesn't suck and it might actually be worth playing. Previously this was kind of the vehicle that I would recommend skipping, but then again, like you had to really learn the playstyle. Going from the tier 7 tank, then branching up towards the T54 E1, which used to be a medium and now it's a heavy inside the game, you have to learn how to autoload, right? It's not as simple as going, oh, just skip the T69, go up and it's the T54 E1 and you'll be right. Every time you go up a tier, the game gets harder. So if you can't learn as you go up the tech tree, then you're just going to be drowning as you manage to get higher up. So the T69, although it was kind of like a tank that you might wanted to have skipped, now, with the update, it's actually not too bad. Wargaming improved the damage per minute of this vehicle as they improved the reload by 3 seconds. Previously it was 27, now it's 24. They also improved the aim time of this vehicle from 2.9 seconds to 2.5, and they also improved the penetration of this tank on the standard rounds from 181 to 200, so you might actually not need to spam gold the whole time. But if you do spam gold, even the penetration of the gold is up to 280 now, which is really not bad for a tier 8 tech tree tank. And to finalize all of the buffs they did, they also improved the dispersion when you move on this tank from 0.22 to 0.2, which means that when you're driving around, the reticle is going to bloom out less. Although they didn't change one of the most important things about this tank, which is the bloom after firing. So the reticle still does bloom out, and you're going to want to be using those vert stabs to be able to keep it going. So I'm going to be using the build that you see: vent, aiming device, and vert stabs, because the bloom isn't too bad on this tank. We'll have to see later on in this game when we are sitting still to see how much it blooms out and whether we can actively fire. Bit of a disaster here to start this game off with, and unfortunately that Scorpion, I was not expecting them to be there, but that's beside the point. The Leopard high rolls against us for 496 out of 420 and then sets us on fire for 560 as well. Well, I guess they've pretty much improved all of the firepower of this tank. That doesn't really help us though with regards to the vehicle's durability. But the vehicle's durability is not great, but it's not awful. This tank, they haven't buffed it, but it does okay inside of a nice matchup. So let's take a look to see whether we really need to improve the gun handling a little bit more. Maybe a little bit. If you were to have, say, like better vert stabs on this, you'd probably be okay. Maybe you could use a rotation device instead of the accuracy, but then you wouldn't be nearly so good at long range. And this vehicle's accuracy is still a pretty poor 0.38, so I think that the aiming device probably still outweighs the rotation device for me, but you play your playstyle, and if you absolutely must unload at the vehicle's 2-second intra-click reload, then maybe that will work out. Alright, so we're going to just keep poking this SU. You know, I got pretty much nothing to lose at this stage, so we're just going to try and make cheeky plays, and whoa! The gold round ricochets off my turret, which allows us to get a full mag into the SU there. Really, that improved aim time on this tank just absolutely paying off in dividends here. And even though we're in the worst possible matchup for this tech tree vehicle, we're having a great game now. Up to 3,600 combined, and we're just making trades. In this kind of a situation, you just got to go for it with all of these American autoloaders. They're not super intelligent, and if you're not trying to drop big sweaty mags on your opponents, then you're not really doing it right. And there could be any tank in any situation that could be able to catch you out, but you just got to go for it with regards to your mags. And oh baby, this is what I like to see: a tier 10 lightly armored tank destroyer just caught right out in the open. And these rounds previously, they're yellow even with the buff to the 200 pen. So you can almost be certain that those rounds wouldn't have been able to penetrate before the buff when they used to have 181. And so this vehicle, it's a lot more free to play than it used to be, because you're not having to spam gold left, right, and center. Your gun handling's much better. It's in a good position. And while I'm not saying that this is the tank that I would choose to play every single time, I mean, you just go play a premium tank, right? Why would you ever want to play this when you could play like a TL7 at tier 9, for example? Or you could play like a Samoa SM, you could play a Lorraine, something that makes credits. But for any of you out there who either don't want to spend money on the game, or alternatively you just thought, nah, is now a good time to be able to go up towards the T57 Heavy? Yeah, it is. I think Wargaming have actually kind of not entirely made this tank overpowered, but made it so that you don't want to tear your hair out when you're playing it. which is always a nice thing when you're playing a video game to not want to have to tear your hair out, right? Although, when you think about it, some games that do make you want to tear your hair out are actually incredibly fun, right? I'm looking at you, Dark Souls and Sekiro. Gosh, I'm looking forward to, what is it now, 2 weeks until the expansion, the DLC for Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree. Can't wait to be getting stuck back into that. I'm sure that some of the boss fights are going to probably end up with a little less hair in a few weeks, right? So the T69 was still down by 4,000 hit points. This game is still rather close. I'm just looking to see if we can get more opportunities on the back of that 268 version 5. Now there was a WT Alpha Panzer IV above us. I'm a little bit worried about the 257 that was last spotted as well. I'm expecting those tanks to just get caught out. And one of the nice things about this vehicle is because it has such good view range, you don't really need to ever consider using coated optics on this tank as long as you have a reasonably good crew. So that allows you to invest in maximizing the firepower capacity of this vehicle with the equipment choices. Although I think I have a terrible crew on this tank because I'm getting spotted left, right and center. Whereas the camera rating on this vehicle, it's not atrocious like it is when you go up onto the T54 E1 at Tier 9 Heavy. So quickly, let's talk about the T69 back in the day, because even though this vehicle is buffed, it's not really the same as what it used to be. The T69 back in the day, I think it used to have 300 millimeters of heat pen when it was first introduced. It was a crazy good tank within that regard. You could just basically auto-aim at a lot of Tier 9s and Tier 10s that didn't have as good armor back in the day. And on these newfangled, overpowered hold-down monstrosities, right? I'm talking about the good old days of World of Tanks, where the most scary tanks were vehicles like the IS-4 or the IS-7, right? None of these newfangled reserve, how have I got, assembly shop tanks just going in the game with their incredible armor and 279Es and so on and so forth. So it's kind of funny that even though Wargaming have buffed the gold rounds back up to 280, they're still not a patch on what they used to be. But you couldn't do this back in the day, right? Save yourself like 20,000 credits by loading for AP on the back, and oh, that is satisfying. Unfortunately, the second shell bounces. Looks like he uses a regular fire extinguisher, and I'm just hoping that the extra shell goes in. So we can definitely see there that there is room for improvement with regards to the gun handling. Maybe you could use an experimental turbo on this vehicle to improve the gun handling, in addition to the vert stabs instead of the aiming device. But again, then you might be missing shots at long range, and then it becomes like half a dozen one, half a dozen the other, right? Is it better to have the accuracy for when you're nuking at long range, or do you want to be fully accurate so you can get that mag out quicker? Well, I guess it just depends whether your opponents are going to be sitting still for you, like the 257 is now. And you don't want to sit in front of an FE4005, that's for sure. The FE405 shutting down the 257. I look for the 268 version 5, get bored trying to find them, so instead turn my attention to the WTF Panzer IV and where they possibly could be. And this is a scary Tier 9 German tank destroyer, but oh baby, I know that you've got terrible gun depression. You can't depress over the front of that tank, and oh, we get one shot in, we get two shots in, and that was a very satisfying magazine. You can see I put the gun up in the air. I'm definitely happy about that. And ladies and gents, we're in the worst possible matchup, and we've, maybe including the blind shots here, up to 7,000 combined. And it's not because we've been spamming gold the whole game. We've done mostly the work with our regular rounds as well. The T69, again, I'm not going to say it's like the vehicle that you should jump out right now, go dump all your credits into and think that you're going to be having monster game after monster game. But it's a buff done right. It hasn't taken the vehicle and made it overpowered. It's taken the vehicle, given it a little bit of love, and actually made it worth using in 2024. Where this vehicle's been out of fashion for at least 5 years. So I went and took a look at the statistics of the recents of the T69, and it's right in the middle of the pack. Oh, Artie, good try there. You nearly got me, bud. But unfortunately, it's just not your day. And it's right in the middle of win ratio and also win ratio difference. So the vehicle, it's not giving its players crazy exceptional results, but it's also not giving them bad results as well. And it's just this combination of just this stopping power. Any tank that can deal like 960 damage within 6 seconds of the first shot is an absolute monster. And having enough armor to be able to pull off the occasional ricochet, especially when you're in a nice matchup, unlike this one, when you're having to play against tier 10s, then that armor can actually be really good. And I believe this vehicle gets something like 8, 9, or 10 degrees of gun depression as well. Oh. Well, I guess my team is really wanting to try and make this close now. If I get killed by this Type 63, maybe this Tiger Mouse will drop as well, or he's only 2 shots away. So I've got to try and now avoid the proxy spotting circle here from the Type 63. You see the Type 63 is fired. He's also been stunned by the artillery, so I should have more than enough time to slinky up and go through right through the front of their hull armor and take down a monster carry, actually, in this baby tank for this matchup. So ladies and gents, there you go. For all of the people out there who are like, QB, you're just featuring top tier tanks, or you're featuring tier 10 tanks and they're all spamming gold. Well, this was about as free to play as it gets. And there is nothing more satisfying than getting 1,788 base experience in a vehicle that nobody thought they would give a chance, as well as packing off that 7,500 combined game. The new gun handling allowed us to hit 28 out of 31 shots, and 25 of those penetrated, and we even make profit as well, after running out of standard rounds and being forced to fire gold. So, the T69, it finally doesn't suck. And while, again, I wouldn't recommend that all of you jump out, go and race and expect to have incredible games in this vehicle, it's actually worth playing now, if your goal is American brutality with awesome firepower. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this bottom tier tech tree matchup. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, later on today, I am going back to my original tech tree, and it's going to be a tech tree showcase of the E100s. Come along as I play through all of my first played tanks from tier 1 to tier 10, so you can see if the mighty E100 is still relevant 13 years after I first played it. So, really looking forward to seeing you all live right now. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.